Today I'm joined by my good friend, business partner, and my preferred lender, Diego Londono from the Lending Spot. Diego.
Thank you for having me. How's everybody doing today?
Good, doing great. But hold on, before we start,
I think some coffee is needed.
I look cafecito. Let's try your brand. Let's try it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We can start the day without a cafecito.
A Miami tradition.
Ooh,
It's good coffee, right?
this is amazing.
This is a good coffee. Good coffee.
Really, really good. Get some energy for the rest of the day today.
Yeah.
So today we want to discuss a topic in real estate, which is very spoken of now, very popular talk. What is going to happen next year, 2024, regarding interest rates? The rumor is that they're going to have 6 interest cuts next year. Diego, let's talk a little bit about that. First, let's talk about your experience, how long you've been in the business for.
Been in the business for about 24 years. Been through a lot of markets, some very good markets, some very bad markets. We have a great office, core group of people. We've all been together for, I think my main office, we've been together about 12 years. We worked for very big companies. We worked for Countrywide, which is one of the biggest lenders. We worked for Caliber. We started Caliber down here in the Southeast. We've always had top-notch producers and high volume branch. So we have a good pulse on the market. We'll do anything between a $6 million loan and we'll do, a $150,000 loan. So it does give us a good bird's eye view of the market as a whole.
So I've personally been using Diego in my business, not only with my clients, actually myself. I'm also actually a client of Diego's on various properties that I've purchased throughout my years. And there's no one else that I trust more than him regarding professionalism and his knowledge. His knowledge is over the top because, again, experience. So I felt that this interview should be done, we're talking about interest rates for next year, predictions of what's going to happen in the real estate market with someone like Diego who has his finger on the pulse, always knows what's going on. So I felt like he's the best choice for us for the interview today.
Thank you. So where do you want to start?
So end of the year, December the 13th, we're counting down for the end of the year to start a fresh year, 2024. What are your predictions next year, Diego, with regards to interest rates? Are they going to cut them? Yes, no, how many times? And if so, how will it affect the market? And if not, how often will it affect the market?
So that's a very hot topic, and every morning that I wake up, one of my traditions is I read about 5 publications that I go through, trying to understand the market, try to read the market, and more importantly is decipher what's the hype and what's the reality, and I think those two things in this market are very, very far apart. I was reading this article this morning where they were saying hopefully we won't have to watch all the announcements in the future because we'll have a stable market. But as of today, when somebody speaks, when Powell speaks or anybody speaks, it's everybody's gripping on the TV to see what he's going to say, to see if the market's going to move up or down. And then in a lot of ways, I think it's responsible to do that. In a lot of ways, I think, you kind of have to look at your own little market as independent from the rest of the country, right? And by that, I mean, as you know, Oscar, South Florida, while it's obviously we're not doing numbers we were doing 2 or 3 years ago, I believe it's still a very healthy market as far as transactions are going. Mm-hmm. We can talk about prices and homes as a different story, but I think we're still living in a very healthy market. If I've had several calls this week, a lot of people have been coming out, Wells Fargo, a lot of big people have been coming out saying, well, we're going to have four cuts next year or maybe even 6 cuts next year, right? My professional opinion, I haven't seen any indication from the Fed chair president saying that there's going to be cuts next year, right? I would actually go on the other side of that and say, I think we'll have a flat market next year, right? He was very bullish this year in the way he was raising. He would come out and he would say, I'm going to raise, and he would raise. I think he had one pause this year, right? Mm-hmm. And then came right back and raised again. Mm-hmm. And I think it's more the talking heads, trying to will a rate, a rate cut where the Fed chair really hasn't said he's going to drop rates, right? He's trying to get inflation under control. A lot of the same people were saying that he was raising too fast, that he was going to crash the economy. And, quite frankly, what he's done has been 100% on point, right? Whether you agree with it or not. He's got inflation, started to get inflation under control. And there's no reason to indicate why he would want to bring down rates. And he hasn't indicated, once again, that he's going to bring down rates. So I think next year we'll have a flat market. It's going to be stable while we try to get the economy under control, right? A lot of people talk about, well, rates are crazy high, right? Look, we had some improvement in the market the past 2 weeks, right? I think rates went up to 8% maybe about a month ago, and they, they've gone down a little bit. So they've gone down to about, let's say what? I think probably today's average interest rate today in today's market, probably like 6.875, maybe high sevens, depending on what you're buying, what your credit score. There's other factors that play into that. So I've been doing mortgages for about 24 years. And interest rates traditionally, we had a big refi boom in 2004 or 5, and that's because interest rates, came down to about 5%, 6%, and that was a boom.
So they refinanced when it went down to 6. People start refinancing.
Yeah. That means that your interest rates, traditionally to do a refinance, you'd want to see a 2-point margin improvement on your rate, right?
That's 2 points, right? That's good.
That's common, right? That's kind of a rule of thumb per se. And we had a big boom, right? When they went down to 6%, high fives. So when people tell me, well, interest rates are astronomically high in this market, I was like, I don't see it, right? I see they're high compared to where we were, but interest rates at 2 or 3%, that was an anomaly, right? I don't foresee us going back there. I mean, you
refinanced my house when I was about 5.75, I believe.
That is correct.
And you brought me down to a 2.65.
2.65.
I mean,
that's criminal.
Do you think that will ever happen again?
No, you're stealing from somebody.
You're stealing from
somebody at that point, right? So yeah. So, I don't see, back to the original question, right? Do I foresee rates going down? I think we'll see some type of an improvement. Are the Feds going to go out and start cutting rates all over again? That's a very difficult proposition, and I just don't see that being a reality.
If let's say they do cut the interest rates 1 or 2 times, that's 6 times or 4 times, but even just once or twice, like whatever, do you think that will stimulate the market and make the market react quickly?
Well, this is what's that's a very good question. That's a very good question, and I'm, I'm fearful and optimistic at the same time, and I'll explain to you why. Americans have an extraordinary amount of equity tapped into their homes right now, right? We had about a 20% increase in property values, right? I mean, you work the market.
Yeah.
Tell me, just, give me your experience. Let me ask you this question, right? Let's say you had an average sale in, give me a market, Westchester for sale, single family residence,
Let's say Coral Gables.
Okay, let's say
the market that I work in.
Work that you were applying, because I was trying to, yes, let's say Coral Gables, right? What was a 4.3 in Coral Gables selling for, in 2019, 2020?
Well, back then, let's say an average in 19, the Gables was around $350, $400 a square foot at that time.
Correct.
It's literally doubled. Okay.
Correct.
$800 a square foot.
Correct.
And new construction, $1,000 a foot plus.
That is correct.
It's numbers that were more than doubled, basically, per square foot.
Correct. So think about that. So if your home has doubled in price from what we're talking about, right, and you refinance to a 2 or 3% interest rate, right?
I'm not selling.
You're not.
I'm not selling.
You're not selling.
No one that interest rate is going to sell unless they have a big, change in their life.
Correct.
They're moving out of Miami. They had a death in the family.
Correct.
Unfortunately, a divorce.
Correct.
Whatever, a life-changing event.
Correct.
If not, there's no need to sell, which is why inventory is still remaining low.
So inventory is going to stay low.
Right.
Right. Transactions are still going to occur because of what you said. Right. But now let's say that interest rates take a dip down 1%. We go from high 6s to mid 4s, right? Then you're not too far off from where you were previously, right? If you have a 3% interest rate, a 1.5, but you get to tap into a bunch of equity in your home. Mm-hmm. Now we start thinking to ourselves, okay, if I can get myself a 4% interest rate, right? And I can put down a large down payment, which you have access to put a large down payment because of the equity in your home, mm-hmm. right? We would start a snowball effect of transactions all over again.
100%.
You would start a snowball effect. And I just don't see the government wanting to do that right now.
I don't see that
anytime soon.
I don't see that either.
I think they want everybody to sit still. Mm-hmm. Consumer spending is at an all-time high right now. All-time high consumer spending. Credit card debt was at 24% 2 years ago. Average is now 39%. Projected to go to 46% credit card debt. Mm-hmm. So I don't think anybody wants anybody tapping into the equity of their home just yet. So, if rates go down, it'll be positive news. But if rates go down quite a bit, and then we're going to see a snowball effect of people tapping into their equity, taking money out, buying investment properties all over again, mm-hmm. Upgrading their homes, things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't think interest rates are going to go down next year. I think they're stay pretty much the same. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
I agree, 100%.
And buyers are still buying. I think the buyers are still out there who need to buy a house are still going to pay the interest rates. I think it's, like you said, it's still, historically, a 6% interest rate, is normal.
I think that's all. I think that there's nothing wrong with being at a 6% interest rate, high 5s, 6s, it's perfectly fine.
Well, you're on the lending side, so do you see a lot of applications coming in, a lot of buyers still coming in buying, or?
So, perception has a big play in everything.
Right.
As I mentioned to you, rates kind of gone down the past 2 weeks, right? And I can tell you, we probably had a 24% spike in application volume, right? Mm-hmm. Just because people are talking about good news, right? So there's a lot of speculation out there, right? What does that tell me? It tells me there's a lot of people that still want to invest. There's a lot of people that still want to buy, right? And they're just sitting on the sidelines ready to pull the trigger the minute they get some type of positive news.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Any other information you want to share regarding next year, what your gut feelings that happen?
I think we talked about a lot right now. I think we're going to have a stable market. I don't think we're going to see, crazy spikes in transactions, right? I don't see the market moving one way or the other too much. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have to work harder than we traditionally have had to work at, right? Yeah. You're a true professional. You know your craft very well. You own Coral Gables. You've probably seen something in the past probably 6 months, 8 months to a year that while the number of transactions are down, you probably stayed as busy as before, because what happens in these times is a lot of your competition starts to go away, right? And a true professional like yourself is able to navigate, talk to everybody. And what's your average time on your listing?
I was gonna mention that now. So a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, during the whole entire, COVID crisis, the boom, homes were selling within the week, right? Every single deal was in a week, no financing contingency, all cash, no inspections, hard immediately the day you signed. I mean, the moment you signed. It was
with 5 backup offers.
It was absolutely nuts, okay? Now, we're still moving products, but it's become more of a normal market. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. So we experienced a few years ago, it was not normal, abnormal. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy as well. We're back to a market where there's negotiations happening. Yep. Actually, people are making lower offers. The seller's coming down price, buyer's going up, and we're negotiating. Yep. Sometimes we lose a deal for a couple $1,000s, and they walk away. But it's not one-sided anymore. Before it was completely a seller's market, and now it's not a buyer's market. It's just a very neutral, normal market. There's negotiations happening. Buyers are getting better deals. Sellers are getting a little bit lower than they want. But that's just the way it is. And instead of taking a week to sell, it's taking maybe a month to 2 months, more showings. It's just making us work more. But that's the way it should be, though.
Let me ask you a question. If I'm an investor in this market, or just a home buyer, would you advise me to buy?
Absolutely.
Why?
Real estate's always a long-term play. You know, if you're buying it for your own personal use, for your family, and you're looking to live in the house, the average person moves every 7 years.
Correct.
Is what they say, right?
That's 100%.
You know, and some people live there their whole lifetime, 15, 20, 30 years. Long-term, real estate always goes up. You know, you're building an asset, you're building appreciation. You know, nothing is renting, but when you're renting, you're not building that equity. You're not building that appreciation, okay? And so, yes, I bought a property this year, well, last year. We're still buying properties.
I'm under contract to buy a property today.
I'm not looking to sell any of my assets right now. I'm trying to build the wealth for long term. So the answer is yes. When are you gonna buy? When you're waiting for it to go down to 4%? You'll be waiting a long time for that. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know.
So you know what I have found on that regard is, you know, I'm like I told you, I'm under contract to buy a property right now, another investment property. What I found is when I went to make an offer, I had somebody I was willing to negotiate, right? They weren't firm on their price anymore. You know, obviously it's not a completely buyer's market, it's not a seller's market, but I didn't have to compete with 5, 6 other people for that property.
Yep.
Right. So like you said, yes, we're negotiating now, right? But I'm not negotiating not only with the seller, but I'm also not negotiating with 5 other people trying to buy the property behind me, right? Mm-hmm. Which is healthy for me as a buyer, as an investor that wants to buy properties, mm-hmm. right? You know, I still believe rents in Miami are spectacular, you know, compared to the rest of the market. If somebody, when they call me like, Diego, should I buy? I was like, absolutely. Why would you want to compete with other people when this market, you're not competing with a bunch of other buyers? Mm-hmm. You're going to get a decent interest rate, as we just spoke about, mm-hmm. right? Your return is going to be still great, right? And, you know, the old adage, right? You marry the home and you take the rate, mm-hmm. right? We can always fix the rate in the future if it needs to, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact that I'm not paying, you know, $20,000, $30,000 above market value anymore, that's a huge factor into it. So, yeah, right? I would invest. I would buy today.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've got a lot of information today. From Diego, which is my expert lender, my to-go guy. They'll tell them about where you're located, tell them how they can reach you for any questions or any advice or, well,
to reach me, go through Oscar first of all. First and foremost, the opportunity for you guys to talk. We've been in Coral Gables for 20 years. We've worked for some of the biggest lenders in the country. We have now opened up our own mortgage company here in South Florida with the expertise to tailor every single mortgage that you could possibly ask for. I could be reached at diego@lendingspot.net, or you could always call us.
I want to end it with one last statement. When I met Diego, you know, about a little over 10 years ago, you know, I felt like he was like any other lender, promised me in the world. Everybody promises me, oh, yeah, for sure, they'll close the deal, qualify, the whole song and dance, okay? This guy is a straight shooter. If the buyer is not qualified, he'll call you and tell you, Oscar, this guy's not qualified. Don't waste time. He's not going to, you know, cover, sugarcoat it, try to make it happen, and at the end, tell you, sorry, he didn't qualify. He is straightforward, and that's why I keep using Diego, because he has never, ever let me down. So, appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you for having me.
You too. Thank you for coming.
All right.